Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm doing everything I can to keep these as short as I can. But let's have a little look at what's going on. Once people learn the sine rule, once they learn the cosine rule, they sometimes get them mixed up. But then we can get to exact values, and exact values are in Western Australia and most of Australia, what's called the 11 methods course. Can also be in the 10A course, depending on your teacher in year 10. Then if it's New South Wales, it's in the 11 advanced course. So here we go. Just a normal, in this case, it's going to be A, and because it's got information on three sides, we expect it's going to be the cosine rule, unless it's a tricky question. Let's have a look though. Is this a tricky question? We go no, because we know what the angle is opposite that side that we're looking for. So it's really a straightforward question. This becomes capital C, that becomes little c. That means these become capital A and that's little a. And this is capital B and that's little b. Doesn't matter if you swap the a and the b around. So let's go to the formula and see what we've got. We've got c squared equals a squared plus b squared, 2ab cos capital C. By the way, if you haven't realised, that little part there is Pythagoras Theorem. So Pythagoras Theorem is part of cosine rule. So sometimes it helps people to memorise it if you don't have a formula sheet for it. So let's go ahead with it. Little c is an x with a squared. Little a is a 5 with a square. We could shortcut like crazy on this, but let's not do it. B is a 3 squared. That's a 2 times the a times the b, and then times the cos of the angle there, which is 60 degrees. Let's have a look at what we've got. X squared equals 25 plus 9. You can't subtract the 2 because it's married to all these other numbers. I talk about married for multiplying. It's connected to them, so you can't do the subtract first unless it had a bracket around it, and there's no bracket in the cosine rule. So now we've got 2 5s are 10, 10 3s are 30, and you've got this thing called cos 60. So I'm going to go back to, if you haven't already seen them, that sine 30, if you put in your calculator, you'll happen to get 0.5, and the calculator will give you 0.5. Some calculators may give you as a half. So let's write it as a half, and we know the sine rule is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So if I draw a right angle triangle with an angle of 30 degrees to make it reasonable, there's 30 degrees, that's reasonable, there's the right angle. The opposite side will be a 1, the hypotenuse will be 2, and for those who haven't seen this, nice little shortcut for working out this side is actually Pythagoras Theorem. 1 times 1 is 1, I put a square around it, or a rectangle, I call it a square. 2 2s are 4, and I try to put a square around it. And then we want to figure out what this side is here. Now, if you look at those three sides, the 2 is the longest, so you can't go 4 plus 1. We're getting a shorter side, so I talk about S, S, S. Shorter side we subtract. I use that for lots of situations in maths, S, S, S. So 4 take 1 is 3. Remember, this is the square. So how do we undo a square? It's a square root. If you wanted to, you can go c squared equals a squared plus b squared, and you'll work out that it was root 3 just the same. So we know that this side here is a root 3. Now if this is 90 and that's 30, this angle over here has to be 60. So on this question we're asked to get the cos of 60. Now if you'd memorised it, or you had your calculator, but this will probably be in the non-calculator section, you can just put down that it's a half. But if we go back over here and look, cosine is the adjacent on the hypotenuse, so it's 1 on 2, so it's a half. So go back to the question here. I'm allowed to add those two, so that's 34. Now I've got 30 times by cos 60, back to the cos 60 is a half. If you wanted to memorise them, here's an interesting one. Part of memorisation, but you can remember them by this. If your teacher uses an equilateral triangle to memorise those, that's okay. That's their system. It's the same system, it just looks a little bit different. Sine 30 happens to be the same as cos 60, which happens to be a half. And you might notice that the 30 and the 60 are complementary. They add up to 90. This is called cosine because it's actually the complement of sine. So the sine of 30 has to be the same as the cos of 60. So if we kept going, the sine of 10 has to be the same as the cos of 80, and you could keep going and going and going with those. So let's go back and just finish this question. It's getting too long. Cos of 60 is a half. So now I've got 34, 30 times a half, half of 30 is 15. So I've got x squared equals 19. Now here's your answer. X equals the square root of 19. And that's called the exact answer. So the moment you put it into your calculator and you get all the decimals, it's no longer an exact answer, it's an approximate answer. We could approximate what it is even without a calculator, but there it is as an exact answer. I hope you're enjoying things keep coming out of my mind. If you're enjoying them, it'd be nice if you press subscribe. I am having a little bit of a race on how many subscribes I can get compared to someone in the family's friend. So if you subscribe, that would be really nice. If you spread the word, that would be great. Thank you.